Let's all scream. Let's all scream. Scream, let's all scream.
Hi everyone and welcome to Let's All Scream. I'm Hassan Al Marashi
I'm Shehlaa Ali.
And I'm Saleh Al Braik.
and welcome to our 6th episode. How's everyone doing?
We're good. How are you, Saleh?
I'm doing okay. As you guys can hear, I am still speaking to you over the phone in
Yeah.
this podcast. But that's just because, as most of you know or may have heard, Dubai is still under a 24-hour lockdown. So this is the best we can do. And I think after hearing the last episode that we did, which is, I did it over the phone as well, I kind of got used to it in the middle.
Yeah, I
So,
didn't find it too bad, to be honest. But to our listeners, please let us know if this is too unbearable for you. We're doing the best that we can, but if it's too bad, then we can try and figure out another way. But for now,
Yeah.
this is the best that we can do.
Yeah, and hopefully this won't last too long, and hopefully soon we'll be back to normal, and Saleh will be able to come back to our house, and
We can record in person
Yeah.
again.
like normal people.
Yeah. But how's everyone doing overall?
I'm good. Just been busy trying to keep myself busy, and yeah, that's it. How about you, Saleh? Have you been doing any tasks, any activities?
Well, I think the mantra for the past week has been one day at a time. And I
Yeah,
think
for
that's
definitely.
important right now. I don't think we should, be focusing too much or drowning ourselves. I find myself looking at the news less, and really appreciating my time.
Yeah.
And kind of just keeping myself busy with really simple tasks. And yeah, I think that's having that in mind has stopped me from stressing too much in the future, and just
Yeah.
kind of letting go and realizing that there is a light at the end of the tunnel and it will eventually come, but not stressing too much about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about you guys?
I did break, and I opened Instagram. I know, shock, but but I opened it for, I promise it was no more than 3 minutes, but I found myself like it was exactly like an old bad habit. You just open it and then you scroll endlessly, and then I'm just like, what am I doing? And I realized the value of my time during this break, and things that I could do instead of just sitting on my phone. And I do sit on my
Yeah.
phone much less now. Like, I even on my phone, you know how you get notifications about how active you are on your phone?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the screen time.
Yeah, the
and-
analysis.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it did tell me like, you've been down this week more than the past week, I think, or something like that. So so it's been good, but I did break. I had to admit that.
Yeah. Something that I like actually, or I am enjoying, is I have never seen, and Shahla, you might not be able to relate to this since you are away from social media, but something that I am appreciating is the fact that a lot of the people I know are doing live streams. So it's so interesting to basically have that visual. Again, we all have these virtual platforms that we can call each other on,
Yeah.
that we can see each other face to face and spend time together virtually, but it's really nice to see on Instagram specifically all of my friends going live and
Yeah.
showcasing their talents, whether it's music, whether it's art, or anything of that nature, or even literature.
Yeah.
So those are one of the nice things and it really helps because you're having kind of a human connection and you're not really focusing on the outside world. So I
Yeah.
think those are one of the nice things that are coming out of it, whereby people are being more creative about how they connect with people.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and even Hassan and I did a friends date night. Well, not date night, but just a friends Zoom call is what we can call
Yeah.
it. And we just we got ready. We opened the laptop, and we had
I would say like an hour-long conversation,
Yeah,
and we
and
even like managed to
played-
play like a online game, like
Yeah.
kind of like Pictionary, but virtually.
And
Yeah.
it was actually really nice. And I was gonna say to everyone listening, there are things like that. There are a lot of online games, online activities you can do, even if you can't see your friend, and do things that you normally do. There are so many. I feel like
Oh.
alternatives.
Yeah.
I remember we have to highlight this, something that we all did together, or maybe me and Hassan and Shehlaa was sitting on the other side of the room, which is we Netflix partied this
Oh
week.
yeah, that was really fun.
Yeah.
And it's for those of you who don't know what a Netflix party is, it's something that's relatively new, and it's a way whereby the host of the Netflix party itself selects a movie and sends out a link to everyone who wants to join. And I did that this week. And
So basically, like it's like watching a movie with your friends, but you don't see each other. It's just basically imagine you're watching a show on Netflix or a movie on Netflix, but it just has a chat box on the side where you can see
Yeah.
people talking
and
and
that was something
commenting.
that was, I think, really cool because it's literally a virtual cinema, and so
Yeah.
you kind of feel like, and I think a lot of people who joined were saying that they felt like they weren't alone, which is such
Yeah.
a cool thing to experience.
Yeah.
And
So
what's
that was
nice
fun,
about
I
it
think.
is, you know how like we all have that annoying friend, or maybe we are that annoying person who talks during movies. But what's nice about this is you can kind of look at the chat when you want to and
Yeah.
participate when you want to, but it's not, someone speaking in your ear like, what happened? What did she say? What, you know what I mean? So it's really fun in that way. But for me, it's been okay. It's been, ups and downs. But the past week has actually been really busy work-wise. So that helped keep my mind off of things, and I didn't really have a lot of free time to get bored,
Yeah.
which is good in a way. But yeah, I was really looking forward to the weekend to be able to kind of just relax.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess it depends at what point of this you're in. But for me, I've kind of reached a level of acceptance and kind of just like, just waiting for this to be done and for things to, I wouldn't say go back to normal because I think the world is changing.
Yeah.
But we don't know how that change is going to really look like.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, well, for me, it's just been accepting that this is what's happening,
What's
and
happening.
and just waiting and seeing
Yeah.
what's gonna take place. And actually, for today's podcast, I think we're gonna do things a little bit differently. Usually, what we do is we just kind of quickly chat before each episode and say, okay, what do you guys want to talk about? And it kind of just happens very organically. But with this episode, actually, one of our listeners suggested a topic, and that kind of inspired us. It was something that was already on our minds, and so we thought, why not? And the topic was forgiveness. And I think a lot of us, because we've had more time, even though we've still been busy with lots of stuff, and those with young kids who they have to keep entertained, or those who are still going to work. Or working from home.
Yeah.
We're all juggling a lot, but still, I think this has allowed somewhat of more time purely on the fact that if you're not leaving your house, you're not traveling as much. And so that travel time, you've gotten that back. So this is to say that we've had more time to reflect and maybe think about our relationships with people, friendships, or, think about what's really important. And I wanted to talk about this topic about forgiveness because I think we've all come to a point in our lives at one point or another where we've had to forgive someone for hurting us, maybe, or hurting someone that we love, or maybe even forgive ourselves for a mistake that we made or a bad decision. So I just wanted to bring it to you guys first. Can you talk about your experience with forgiveness?
I think there's a lot of different ways that this could go, specifically because forgiveness is such a deeply rooted
Yeah.
feeling, and and a phenomenon, I would say, because it goes beyond just feeling. It's emotion, it's thoughts, it's everything. I think what I've done, the only way I can explain it is, for as long as I can remember, I was told something, and I can't recall who it was that told me this, but basically I was told that sickness, any form of sickness, is derived from suppression and holding on to emotions and holding on, and these emotions could be grudges, for example. So ever since I heard that, it made sense to me, because I felt, obviously, when someone has hurt you, or you've hurt someone, or anything that is a negative effect, and if you keep it inside of you, obviously it will manifest and fester, and then obviously affect your physical well-being or your mental well-being. And so what I realized was, I wouldn't want that to happen to me. So what I've been trying to do for as long as I can recall is to never hold things in, and to always forgive.
Yeah.
Because that's the one of the main things. Now the topic where it becomes so broad is, you hear people say, okay, forgive but never forget. So it's a two-way thing. So I was thinking about, with you, Shehlaa, are you the type that you would forgive easily, or do you hold on to it? Do you forget? Do you not forget?
Yeah. Well, with me, I think you guys know this about me right now. Is I used to forgive and forget a lot. I feel like I am a forgiving person, and I feel like in the past few years, I've actually been more mindful as to how much I forgive. And not to say that, oh no, I'm a very harsh person, but I found myself getting hurt way too many times, and so I had to like pull back and be like, okay, I want to forgive someone, and I'll forgive them once or twice, but then there's only so much you can forgive sometimes. And so I'm sure a lot of people will compare to this, is that you do forgive once and twice, but then again, going back, are you hurting yourself by forgiving these people so many times, or are you not forgiving enough? So there is a big balance, and like you said, Saleh, it's a very broad and wide subject, and how much can we get into this? But yeah, I do think that's where I'm at now, is I'm trying to find that balance.
I think for me, I found it that I'm forgiving when it comes to people who have hurt me personally. I find that I forgive relatively easily. Where I find difficulty forgiving is when people hurt those that I love, or those that I'm close to.
Yeah.
And that's where I struggle. And I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but
I feel like that's you being protective over.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's because, you never want to see someone that you love hurt.
Yeah.
And I can think of a few examples, but something that stuck out to me when I was thinking about this is, and this is a bit of a personal story, but in high school, I had not very many friends at one point. I can't remember what grade this was exactly, but there was this one person who I thought was a really good friend, and we were just getting to know each other, and started getting pretty close. And one day we weren't allowed cell phones or mobiles in school at this point, but I, of course, and every other kid were very eager to bring our phones to school. And this was in the days where, Nokia was coming out with new phones every few months or something, and you couldn't wait to show off your latest Nokia phone.
Okay.
So anyways, I had brought mine to school, and it was pretty, I think like the third day that I had it or something. So I remember we had to leave class and go for the morning assembly. And so I left my phone in my bag. And then when I came back, it wasn't there. And this friend was actually the only person that was helping me look for the phone, and literally spent all day helping me look for the phone, to the point where I even had to, expose myself to the teachers and say, I brought a phone to class and now it's stolen, and I don't know where it is. and fingers were pointed at this other guy who I had trouble with before. So the blame was shifted on him. And then a few days later, or even a week later, I heard from someone else who was not a close friend, but like, someone that I was friendly with.
Yeah.
And he said, "Oh, by the way,
was
just
that
so you
friend?
know, it was your friend who actually stole the
Oh my
phone." And then he
God.
was pretending to help you look for it to cover up. And by that time, this friend had lied to me on multiple occasions and
Yeah.
like manipulated me into taking money from my parents and giving it to him, because he was
Oh
saying
my
like,
God.
"Oh, my parents don't give me money, or I can't afford whatever," like giving me the sob story. I can't
Yeah.
remember exactly the details. And then also he had also stolen my dad's phone when he came over one day. And that's when we knew it was him, because it was too obvious.
Yeah.
And I remember like begging, because I was so embarrassed about it. I remember begging my parents not to make a big deal out of it, and not to contact the school about it, and call his parents or whatever, and to just like let it go. But I felt like so guilty, because not only had I foolishly trusted this person and brought them into my home, and
Yeah.
they not only harmed me, they harmed my family, so to speak. My dad was a doctor and was on call, so all his patients' contacts and stuff and
Were on that phone.
were on that phone. So it was like, it's not, you can't. And those days there was no cloud or anything.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you couldn't back that stuff up.
Yeah.
So anyways, long story short, eventually we had MSN Messenger those days.
Yeah.
So he had come online, and I said, "Look, I know you stole my phone, but I just want you to know that I forgive you. Not for you, but for me, because I need to let this go." And I was a teenager at this point, so I have to say that's very mature
Yeah, I was just
and
gonna
evolved
say.
for a teenager. But so with that, that's something so severe. But yet I had managed, even at a young age, to forgive, because I knew it was not going to do anything for me to hold on to that
hold
and to begrudge that. I still had to go to school with this person and see them every day.
Yeah.
Thankfully, later on, they transferred classes, so there was less of a day-to-day interaction. But anyways, but then on the flip side, there's other instances where people who I love have been hurt. I won't go into another long story, but just very quickly, like when my mom was battling cancer, we went to this shop, and she was treated horribly by the manager there. And I remember, like, till this day, I will never forgive him, because I was thinking, how can this man be so cruel, seeing a woman who was clearly sick, clearly ill, and we were very polite, very understanding, just asking for better customer service,
Yeah.
and he was incredibly rude. And so till this day, like,
You're
I can't,
holding it and-
I hold on to that, and
Yeah.
I can't ever forget. And
Yeah.
just to show you karma, his store is shut down, and no one is buying from him, obviously, because he went out of business. So just saying, be nice to your customers.
But on the flip side of that, though, is I feel like, especially now, because I said I'm being mindful and I'm trying to, yes, I try to forgive those and the small things and just let the things go. But at the same time, I found myself for a while not knowing what to let go of and what to hold on to. So I found myself like holding on to things that, looking back at it now, I'm just like, but that was so silly. And then there are other moments where I'm just like, no, I should have like said something to this person, for instance, because of how I felt or how they hurt me or something like that. So I am finding it hard to find that balance.
I think it's a matter of, number one, picking your battles.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just have to keep the peace.
Yeah.
Especially if it's like in a work environment or something.
Oh, yeah,
or
definitely.
within a family or something. And also, I think we're all just afraid of getting hurt and getting hurt again by the same person.
Yeah.
We as much as we try and be humble, we all have our pride and our ego, and not just that. It's just, we just want to protect ourselves. So
Yeah.
to be the fear of getting hurt, I think, is heightened when you're afraid of being hurt again by the same
Yeah.
person who has hurt
Yeah.
you before.
That's
Yeah, for in my opinion, what I think is more difficult for me personally, and I think I agree with what with the way Shehlaa was explaining it, because this is a journey with time. Some people may do it in their teenage years, like you, Hassan. Some people may find it later in later years, like myself. But my issue is never with the forgiving of others. That for me comes naturally. Usually for me the difficulty is forgiving of myself, and you guys know this very well. That is something I still have a problem with up until today. I'd love to say that a lot of the things I'm over, but they still creep up every now and then, and I think all of us have our own demons and battles to deal with. But for me personally, I think that's it's how when you give advice but then you don't take it yourself. For me, it's the same thing with forgiveness. I can give forgiveness, and God knows I have given forgiveness, and I continue to give forgiveness. I also tell my younger brothers, once we had a conversation, and my brother just threw out a phrase, and he was just saying, "Oh, this person, I hate him." And I thought to myself, and I was like, "Oh, but you're kidding, right?" And he's like, "No." I was like, "But you don't even know this person very well." And it wasn't someone we actually knew. It was I think it was some like celebrity or something.
Right. Yeah.
And he was so shocked about how affected I was. And then I told him, and my other younger brother was there, and I said, "Listen, the word hate is such a powerful word. You're holding it in your heart, and the way that I think which relates to forgiveness is never hold on to something as strong as hate, because it ends up bothering you than the other person. And so letting go, but then coming back to it when it's about myself and forgiving myself, this is where I have an issue with. And it's something I try to keep on working, but I have a problem with forgiving myself for mistakes I have made, because like you said, Hassan, your problem is forgiving others that have hurt those you love.
Yeah.
For me, it's forgiving myself for hurting those I love, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And that's something that unfortunately I have no remedy for. Some days most days are better than others, because I don't try not to dwell on it. But I do have those moments where I come to you guys and try to find solace and guidance, and it calms me down. But I guess we all just deal with forgiveness in different ways.
Yeah, and I think it depends what point in our lives we're in. Like, I've had times where I've been a lot angrier and, of course, less forgiving about even smaller stuff.
Yeah.
But then you evolve and you grow, and I think even sometimes you regress. It all depends on what stage in life you're in.
Yeah.
And it's like you said, it's a journey. It's not a straightforward path.
Something that came up as you were talking, Saleh, is I've also found myself being, I guess this is the mother instinct in me, is like Hassan was saying, when you hurt the people around me, and especially I found myself very protective of my family, my immediate family. And if anything were to happen to those who I really care about, I found myself actually very protective. And again, going back to that word hate, I try, and I've basically started this thing where I'm trying not to say the word hate. So even about, like, let's say food or something, and I'm trying to implement this into our life and not use that word, because it is a very strong word. And to carry that word, let alone the actual feeling in your heart, I feel
It's very heavy.
It's very heavy, and it can drain you. It can affect your life on so many levels. That's even like, it's going to sound stupid, but even like saying, "Oh, I hate this food," or "Oh, I hate, I don't know, oh, I hate this color." Saying that, we throw the word out hate so much that I think I really want try to learn how to reduce it and use a different word, as to say, oh, I dislike this.
Or I prefer something.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah,
Which
that's
is
just,
actually, segueing away from the topic of hate. This is a very good segue into something else I wanted to talk about, which is tolerance. So last year was the year of tolerance here in the UAE, which was a great initiative, in my opinion. But that's not to say that, tolerance ends when the year ended. I think tolerance is something that we should all apply to our lives, and keep with us moving forward.
yeah.
I mean, I wrote a children's book pretty much about tolerance.
Yeah.
So this shows you how important I think the topic is. But I wanted to bring it to you guys.
Now available in all bookstores.
No, that was not meant to be a self promo. Although yes, if you want to get the book, please do. A great reading for kids now. While they're stuck at home. But anyways, I wanted to bring the topic to you guys. What are your feelings about the phenomenon of tolerance?
I think I appreciate the fact that you're bringing this up, because tolerance for me is very close to home. People are sometimes surprised by my viewpoints on a lot of things, and I think we can explore my viewpoints and our viewpoints in many podcasts in the future.
Yeah.
But one of them, when it comes to tolerance, I primarily direct it to my parents. The way my upbringing is that my parents, specifically my mother, would or actually let me backtrack this one. I would go to my mother she even reminded me that as a very young kid, I asked her the difference between, I'm going to talk about tolerance of religions. So basically I was asked about why are we different, or why were we all created differently, and it wasn't just basically on religions, it was on every type of topic, because as you're curious when you're young, and instead of being given a closed answer and kind of off topic, my mom actually went quite deep into it and explaining that we were all put here for a reason, and that we should all learn to coexist together. And the main thing is to be tolerant to each other and accept each other's differences, like how we want people to tolerate us and accept ourselves. And I love this because my mom has a lot of friends from different backgrounds.
Yeah.
And so that was, I think, the question why it was on my mind as a kid, because I was hearing different things from my, in high school, from other kids around me, and their viewpoints on how they weren't very tolerant. And so I obviously took this back home. And so when I heard this from my mother, who I looked up to, obviously, it literally shaped my entire future up to this day. So I was extremely happy that we had the year of tolerance, and I do strongly believe that this is something that we have to not just celebrate for a year, but it has to continuously happen. And I think we're thankful to be here in the United Arab Emirates, whereby we are pushing that tolerance messaging across all of our factors, and how many nationalities and backgrounds we have here. So for me, I'm just very much an open book. I would like to believe I'm very tolerant and very accepting and very open to talk about backgrounds and actually open to learn. I think that's one of the most important things. But what about you, Shehlaa?
Sorry, Hassan was going to say something.
Oh, I was just going to say, it's funny how, Saleh, you bring up that your mom, had friends from all over. And my mom was the same. And I remember when I was younger, she had friends from the UK, from Australia, from the US, from all over. And, this was back in the 90s and the 80s. And the expats community was actually much smaller here back then. So it just goes to show you how things have evolved. And now I think if you look at the media, and I'm talking worldwide, you see a lot of divisiveness and a lot of, intolerance. People just talking about separation rather than togetherness.
Yeah.
And so it's just funny how back then, where there was no access to social media, the world was less connected than it is now.
Yeah.
It was, in a way, at least here, more together than we are
Now.
today.
Ironic how you said that. So like basically when we were less connected to the world, we were more together.
More
Yeah.
to-
And now that we're more connected to the world, we are more divided.
Yeah, exactly.
Really
Yeah.
ironic.
That's the thing. For me, growing up in Canada, I feel like exactly what Hassan is saying is that, first of all, in Canada, there's many different races, religions, just many different opinions. It's a melting pot. It literally is known
Yeah.
for being a melting pot. And so growing up there, you never see you never think to myself, oh, that person is different, or oh, I can't tolerate this person, or because it does, as bubbly as it sounds, it is just that kind of, okay, we're all here together, we're all different, we all come from different parts of the world, and yet we love each other and
Respect each other. Yeah.
And yes, by the way, moving here, a lot of people make fun of the amount of times I say sorry, but it is.
It's a very Canadian thing.
It's a very Canadian thing, but it is true. And so I never really felt like there was a thing that, oh wait, do I have to tolerate this person? Oh, I don't accept this person. You don't really see that, especially at least the way I saw my childhood.
Yeah.
So then growing up, of course, like you said, the media and just the way we were living now is, you see there is that divide, and it is sad to see that developing. And I really hope that we can pull back and go back to acceptance
Finding that
and
togetherness. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
There was a word that you had mentioned actually while you were talking about it, which was acceptance.
Yeah.
And I think that is something very important when it comes to not just being tolerant, but also ties in with the first, discussion that we had about forgiveness.
Yeah.
I think when you talk about acceptance, it could be, you could actually see this as an outward thing, but I'm talking more about the self-acceptance part.
Yeah.
A lot of people, I believe, when it comes to having issues with forgiveness, or even issues with being tolerant to people, it's kind of it kind of links back to insecurities of acceptance and self-acceptance. And I say this not trying to psychoanalyze people. I'm actually just talking out of my own experience.
Yeah.
I think for me it was whenever I had issues back then with tolerating others, it was mainly due to the fact that I wasn't very comfortable with my own acceptance of myself.
Yeah.
So I wasn't tolerant with myself, so how could I be tolerant with others?
Yeah,
and
maybe
I think self-acceptance does that for you. Once you have that kind of form of accepting yourself and everything that you're about, you get to then accept others for who they are.
Yeah, and I think when you see things in other people that you're insecure about in yourself, it's very easy to go into that space of intolerance and project that onto them.
Yeah.
But I think acceptance in any form is going a step further beyond just tolerating, like you said. And I think with acceptance, it's it goes to a point where you have to sometimes accept that people are different than us. People are going to have different opinions. They're not going to agree. They're going to have different beliefs. But we have to all coexist. We have to live together, and we have to respect each other. Just because I have lots of friends who think different than me on so many different levels, but I still accept them for who they are.
Yeah.
And they may behave in ways that I wouldn't behave in, or maybe not friends, maybe just people in general. But you just have to accept people and not judge them based on that, but judge them by who they are as a person. And sometimes you just have to accept that there's things in people that will never change, or that you can't change, and it's not your job to change that.
Yeah.
And you just have to, go with it and accept them for who they are and take them at that.
Yeah. And going off of what you were just saying, Hassan, there's a word that pops up. I'm not going to go too deep into this, but when you accept, you have to, in order to accept someone, in my opinion, and in order to just accept, again, their situation, their thoughts, who they are, you do have to have some sort of a form of respect, whether it's respect for yourself, respect for them.
Right.
But just to like wrap up the idea of it is, for me, to accept someone, I do respect them. I do understand their thoughts, their belief. I don't have to agree with it, but then it is for me to have that peace of mind is just to, okay, I accept you, I respect you, but let's just leave it at that. For example, I don't have to go too deep into it, and I don't have to.
You don't have to change someone
Exactly.
to accept them.
Exactly.
Oh, big time. Like, I completely agree with you. Like, I think that this is I think actually one of the barriers that I think people keep in front of front of accepting. They assume that acceptance means agreeing.
Exactly.
It's never the case. It's you could definitely have different opinions about something, but you can accept that everyone has their own opinion. That's the beauty of acceptance. And I think that for me, seeing people with attributes of acceptance and tolerance goes miles in terms of telling me about their personality. Like whenever I'm communicating with someone and the way that I see them interacting in terms of acceptance and tolerance tells me that I can be more myself around them.
Exactly.
Because in the fear of saying an opinion and not getting that backlash. So I think that's something I look for when I have, bonds or close relationships. It's just the level of tolerance and acceptance. And
when you have that, sorry to cut you off, but when you have that mindset of acceptance, I think you open yourself up to learning and to growing. As soon as you put a barrier of intolerance and lack of acceptance, that's when you limit yourself and you don't develop, you don't grow. And
even you'll even be able to have a deeper connection with that person, because you are allowing yourself to put that barrier down, to take that step further. And sometimes I feel like you won't ever expect to have that connection with someone, whatever it may be, if you don't accept them and have that mindset.
I think just before we wrap it up, one thing that I want to do differently for this podcast is actually address a question to the listener.
Okay.
So what I want to know is, what is your viewpoint on forgiveness? Where do you stand on the spectrum of forgiveness and eventually forgetting or not forgetting? Also, what are your viewpoints about tolerance and acceptance when it comes to people's differences and opinions? So I think if you guys are listening and we want to know your thoughts, so we don't want this to be a one-way thing. We've always wanted to be engaging. So let us know in any way, shape, or form, whether it's a direct message or a comment on one of our posts. Because we
really want to keep the conversation going. There's a few ways you can reach out to us. Either follow us on Instagram or Facebook. It's at Let's All Scream. Or you can email us on letsallscream.podcast@gmail.com.
And I really love the conversation that we had today. And for anyone who's listening, please let us know your thoughts again. I'd love to come back to this conversation in later days. I think it's
something we can talk about again.
And just hear what everyone else has to say, and then bring that back into our podcast and discuss it.
So we had a lot of fun. Hopefully, crossing fingers, the next time is we're going to be together.
Let's hope.
Let's hope.
But thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll catch you in the next episode.
Thanks everyone.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.